Puppypaw and Louis, two very big names. And what I love about this system, this is also the system we used in some of our female tournaments, and that is the sniping system. So being able to snipe a civilization, I know a lot of players might have differing opinions on these, but as a viewer, I absolutely love seeing this because you get to see how players think and what they don't want to play against. So already on Pigeon's View, we see Malians getting sniped. Louis said, that's not going to be on the cards for us today. I'd rather face off against Byzantines. Why do you think that would be the case?
Malians is one of those, I mean, let's be honest, it's a cockroach civilization, isn't it? It's one of those civilizations that no matter how many nuclear bombs you drop on them, they don't seem to die, frankly. No matter how many villages they lose. It's just always quite annoying to play against, and the tendency to go cavalry, especially on a map like this, so dominated by stealth forests. If you ever put on a defensive on this kind of a map, it's a horrific position to be in. So Louis, just picking the civilization where he thinks he can dictate more tempo against, which is the Byzantines. And I think that's a very prudent snipe to take out the Malians in favor of them. But look at this, Whammon. We have one of the first Golden Horde games here at the tippity top in EGC Masters Finals. I think we might have had one other one before, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't seen all the games just yet. Do correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this might only be the second game outside of the qualifier, second match.
Now, seeing the Golden Horde and here and knowing what it is on ladder, those are two different experiences, I think, for us. When we think of the Golden Horde, we think of Castle Age and an unstoppable force of pseudo horse archers just poisoning and destroying your whole army and everything else in between. But now in this case, I think Puppypaw, now with the tweaks, and correct me if I'm wrong, they are also using the mod where we don't see that bug being used in EGC as well, right?
That's right, yeah. The Kipchak report shot upgrade is something to behold. Let's say that. So yes, we're not going to be seeing any of that today, which is going to make the Kipchak a balanced unit, maybe even a bit underwhelming. Frankly, I'd be surprised to even see them today. However, that Imperial Age is still something to really, really fear from Golden Horde here. And again, on these kind of defensive maps, especially with Byzantines, who themselves are very slow off the blocks, Louis' Golden Horde might find the space it needs to get up to that Imperial Age, but you know, that's easier said than done, because when that Castle Age comes around, the Byzantine tempo with the Golden Horde Tower and the Cataphracts can really start to get very out of control. So this is not a matchup we see often. I'm very excited to see.
The thing about Louis in general is we used to say he was loueMT, so he knows how to play defensively. But at the same time, we've seen a little bit more of an aggressive side to him. And he knows when to attack, where to attack, and how to get that timing just right. That's the nice thing, I think, for Louis as well. He's also someone who has a lot of versatile practice partners. So I would expect a very non-standard type of play from Louis. If we see too many walls, I'll be very, very surprised. This man, he likes to keep you busy to ensure he gets to the late game if needed. But now, we're still waiting here for the lobby creation, so there's still a lot of stuff we get to yap about. But first ban on each side, and Twitch chat, I don't know if this is a surprise to you as well, but a double Japan coming on out. Myriad, why are people so scared of Japan right now?
It's just so versatile. So versatile. It's the new fancy improved version of HRE, I would say. You can play them any map, they will do fine in any matchup. You'll never feel bad having Japan in your draft on really any map whatsoever in the entire pool. They can play it, just like HRE did before, but even better now, I would say, than HRE did beforehand at their peak. So just removing it completely doesn't surprise me at all. Neither player wants to face it. Neither player wants to worry about trying to counter it, as it is a hard task. And then we see the slightly more individual bans after, don't we? We see Lancaster removed from Puppypaw. Lancaster still incredibly dominant when it comes to aggression, without a doubt. Of course, the manas have been reworked, essentially working like mini Aachen chapels that will boost resource generation based on the amount of nearby villages within the influence of it. Now, that in turn has very interesting implications on their income. But long story short, early on, for even the price of only 2 manas as opposed to 3, they can get very similar income to how they had before and play the exact same brutally aggressive style and just secure leads and just run away with games very, very easily. So that won't be an option for Puppypaw. loueMT, however, known as an Ottoman whiz kid by now, one of his scariest picks is also taken away.
Now, Ottoman being a pretty high prior for both of these players tells us all of these players respect it. But what you said about Lancaster there, Louis made sure Puppypaw doesn't get to run away with it. Because I think with what his bans are telling us, he doesn't want civilizations that are going to overrun you if you let them boom a little bit or just give them a little bit of breathing room in this case. So with Louis just ensuring that Ottomans, he lets Byzantines through and then getting rid of Ottomans, that feels like a statement. They know Ottomans is problematic, but then Lancaster being left for Louis, we'll see if Puppypaw needs to pay the price for that. He says Malians could be even more dangerous in the hands of Louis. And now with this interesting snipe system that we have, we usually have to ask ourselves, okay, so which one do I let through? And if I let it through, am I just going to have to snipe it on every single round? But with this diverse map pool in front of us, we have Kawasan and Kerlager as our diversity, I would say. They're not necessarily maps that you would see Malians on. So Puppypaw, if he does try to pull out that Malians later on, Louis is most likely still going to want to get it under control because we've seen what they can do. I feel like Malians now, they used to be in a little bit of a disgusting position, but people now figured out yet again how to get them back to that disgusting spot they were put in now. But Byzantines versus Golden Horde, what are we expecting here from the Byzantines in the early game to get Golden Horde to not get to that late game?
It's a very interesting dynamic here as both civs have a very slow setup. Golden Horde takes a while to itch up. The early game, they're quite exposed because of the Uvu. The extra Uvu they have to invest into immediately in the feudal age. And then just the general design of the civilization. The double batch production. Over time, you know, the numbers build up. However, early on, like your very first units take twice as long to come out as other civilizations. That can really be detrimental. That's one of the reasons Golden Horde is so vulnerable to Dark Age aggression. Even probably the most vulnerable civilization in the game to Dark Age aggression at this point. Used to be Byzantines, not anymore. Golden Horde takes that victimhood away in this case. You know, Byzantines is very similar in that regard, right? We have seen so many system variation builds, 1 on stone, 2 on stone, 3 on stone for that matter. And this is going to be an interesting question mark as to how exactly Byzantine's powerful timings, specifically around that castle age, work out against Golden Horde's timings, because it's very interesting to see due to Golden Horde being technically stronger in the feudal age, having access to the Torgud, to the Keshik, these heavy cavalry units with good buffs from the Khan, that could very well be in their favor. Castle Age, however, things become very different, and that's when Byzantine really starts to kick in, and Golden Horde, you know, outside of the bug kit checks, which will not be possible in this tournament, they really don't have too much special going for them. They got some great bonuses, but is that enough to deal with Byzantines? I doubt it, but that is something we're going to have to see as the game is ready, everyone. loueMT in the color yellow as the Golden Horde, spawning in the south side of Pigeon's View, and his opponent, Puppypaw, in the color red as the Byzantines. And it is a fight we have on our hands.
Yeah, with this type of split, we're already instantly trying to look at exactly what the stone investment is going to be. We already see that 2 on stone. And the big question mark to us is, what does Puppypaw feel is responsible while still boomy on the Byzantines? Now we see that first system coming out, and that's most likely just going to be a 2 villager on stone for a while, because in a lot of cases people say it's definitely worth it to go for that level 5 cistern, but we have seen people like Puppypaw deviate from this to just ensure that they start getting that early aggression on against something that is susceptible like the Golden Horde. But no Dark Age shenanigans happening here from Puppypaw. He plays it nice and clean, full of stone, and lets Louis go into a normal timed feudal age here. Now, we see that Louis is already out on gold pretty early, and I know, yes, they do go for gold early on, but he's already at the amount that he would need to age up. Is this done to preemptively prepare for if something like an early aggression happens, or is this just something that you want to have as the Golden Horde, that little bit of extra gold at the start?
It is a little bit unusual, right? Seeing such a priority on gold. There might have been a fear of a Dark Age here. Now, very unusual that would be from the Byzantines, but as we mentioned, Golden Horde, so susceptible to it, even from something like the Byzantines, who don't have the worst Dark Age, really. Obviously, the Sistine economy, the Limitane, being stronger spears for that matter, all of these will help in their favor in this Dark Age, but Puppypaw doesn't opt for it. So clearly this is an intention to just play standard from Puppypaw and rely on his economy with the sister network reaching that level 5 spike to tide him over into that castle age without taking too much damage in the feudal age, hopefully. You can see by the berry spawns, they are forward, aren't they? The first and the second. So that is not something he wants to see. But then the flanks, they are relatively defendable. They are quite far away. Quite easily, Puppypaw could look to lean towards that northern side of the map, and that would be quite a cozy little spot for sure. We have the deer, double berries, as well as the gold there, all protected by woodline. So just for the price of some cheap walls, he could save himself a lot of olive oil and food. But loueMT has double deer on the back as well, and taking those early could result in a relentless number of units.
Now, I love seeing this Grand Winery just coming down normally. I have not been a fan of seeing these Hippodrome plays getting swept out and becoming part of our meta, so this feels like home. Grand Winery, just a landmark that is so consistent. We love getting that little bit of berry income, especially here when you are going to be reliant on the oil to handle what the Golden Horde can push out. Now, I feel like this is going to be a little bit on Louis to ensure that Puppypaw doesn't get all of those extra resources once those first berries get depleted. Because, of course, you do get your first set of longbows if he decides to go for it. But, of course, there are some people who choose otherwise. 90% of the time, though, we know that people are all longbow enjoyers. Now, we do see that it's a nice little snug base here, as you can see, with the cistern on level 2 there, right on the, and as I'm saying this, right on the wood line, and at the same time he's pulling both villagers off of these to ensure that he can just not overinvest in these cisterns and rather invest in getting more wood, because getting units out early on is so important for Byzantines, especially when that first attack wave will land from the Golden Horde. The Golden Horde, they just have such an impeccable timing with that Khan, and the Khan, it hits hard. It's not just like a little Mongol Khan that pokes around.
Yes, the Khan, Batu Khan, supported by the Torguds, essentially forms a little army in and of themselves. Of course, the Khan, all damage that Batu Khan takes will be directed and soaked up by the Torguds as long as they are in near vicinity. So the Khan essentially cannot die until the Torguds themselves are die. If you're not able to separate him, that is. So quite a powerful bonus here for the Golden Horde, especially considering that the Khan, as soon as he hits, extra damage will be granted to all nearby units of no cooldown. So not like the Mongol Khan, there's no abilities to be used here, at least early on for the Golden Horde. That buff will be ever present as long as that Khan can stay alive and keep on fighting. It's Puppypaw. We can cast some predictions based on how the cistern layout is prepared in terms of where Puppypaw will lean with his base. So we did see that network extended towards that secondary berries at the front there. And then the third is pushed towards the gold. But the question remains, where will the further cisterns go? Towards the north or towards the left? That is the question here, because either side could give fruit here for Puppypaw. The Khan has come in.
I love to see this little bit of aggression just from the scout as well at the same side. You can see Puppypaw, he knows what this charge can do and he's prepared for it. When he rushed that barracks up with 4 villagers, he knew the timing was upon him. And getting out those Limitane as quickly as he can is going to be so critical here. Now he's finally going to be getting his mercenaries in this mix as well, with a few more of those Limitane, just ensuring that he is protected. We see a few moving back now with the Khan trying to get a charge off, but only one villager on gold doesn't mean it's too urgent for Louis to try and do damage, but it does give him a little bit of information. Hey, I can possibly attack from 2 sides and be a very happy camper. He's already got 4 archers in that army though, and With javelin throwers being chosen, I am absolutely in love with what Puppypaw is doing.
We were playing this extra careful in this early game, as we see. He pulled mostly off of stone, and he pulled mostly off of gold as well at this point. So content to stay on the 3 cisterns, as well as just trickling upgrades very slowly in order to ensure that his defense is up to scratch against this early aggression from Louis. But at the end of the day, Mareka, it's all a fake out here for Louis. We can see there's been no gold, no wood gathering for over a minute now. It's these 4 archers, the 2 Torguds and the Batukan, and it's a castle age follow-up behind this for him, already halfway there.
Now, he may have lost that scout, but Louis is feeling very aggressive. He knows exactly what Byzantines is going to be investing in and what he's going to need to do anything against it. Now, with those 4 archers, he's just poking. Now, if your opponent goes for longbows, if your opponent goes for javelins, the outcome is the same. You don't want to be fighting those with that small of an army. So that fake out timing works out perfectly for him here. Now, going into the castle age, though, what does this give Golden Horde without the bugged units, of course? What do they now get going to castle that makes them so powerful and will tell Puppypaw, hey, you need to make a move now?
2 choices for the Golden Horde when going up to the castle age, similarly to how the House of Wisdom works. The Golden Tent has options that can be clicked and grant you bonuses. It is actually going to be the Muscovy Yasak here for loueMT, so that will give an additional 2 armor to all heavy cavalry here for Golden Horde, as long as they have the wood to spare for it, because there is an upkeep cost in wood for them, but it is quite cheap, relatively speaking. The other option would be Relic Uvus, the more popular choice usually, with way higher returns, but also way, way greedier. And when getting pushed by 8 javelins, 11 limitane, Louis might be in a tough spot to greet here, as the Torguds and the Khan look for a little raid, but already Puppy's applying the pressure. He understands exactly what is going on here, and the Uvu is the first target for him to punish this timing.
Now, he has a lot of villagers over here on this side as well. And yes, this is going to be a little bit intimidating for a bunch of spears, especially with the archers trying to find their way through. They're just going to try and poke back. But the Uwu does stay alive for now. And Puppypaw just investing in more and more Limitane. He wants this to go down because the Golden Horde and their Uwus, they hit very differently from how we know it as the Mongols. Now, we do see these javelins. They are accompanied by another handful of Limitane, and Puppypaw now floating quite a bit of food here. This could be indicative of him thinking about getting a little bit more into that castle timing, as we do see a lot of red dots over there on the gold, but at the same time keeping that pressure constant.
You can see the difficulty of playing Golden Horde in this type of situation. The biggest weakness of Golden Horde currently today is the duration of that age up time. You see loueMT has been aging up for close to 2 minutes now, and he still is 20 seconds out by this point, and already Puppypaw is circling like a shark around his base. He's going to find the secondary Uvu here, tucked away at where loueMT thought is nice and safely behind his base, but safe it no longer is. Even gold gathering is now a memory of the past here for Louis. So what's he going to look to lean on the defense? The Muscovy Yasak does boost the armor of cavalry. It would be invaluable in this situation, but with already 14 Limitane on the field, as well as javelins, upgrades are in for Puppypaw as well. A dive point could be underway here if he looks for it. Of course, not too deep, but value can be gained. Puppy, it might get collapsed on here. The tributes are also called in for Louis. Very strong units here. They're like men-at-arms in this position, and Puppy has to be careful.
The problem is, with him now moving back, those units are just going to get picked off. We see the javelins instantly going onto the archers, just missing, taking one down there. And this is actually going to be so expensive for Puppypaw here, because those units, they cannot be replaced. And even just losing a handful, but he decides, you guys are going to go down anyway. Let's take 2 villagers as the prize. And now trying to do as much as he can, trying to kite backwards. But he's aging up himself, getting the Golden Horn Tower, and keeping in mind, this is now not the crazy Golden Horn we've been seeing recently. This is just the one that produces units. No crazy arrows going to be firing from there. And these javelins are trying to make a run for it, trying to get out alive, because he knows how important this is going to be. Limitane now all paying the price, standing on the front lines, trying to get a little bit more damage, but they will need to back off. And Puppypaw is waiting for that castle age to come on in, and he needs it quick. Like you said, the dive was the idea, but he did not account for all of those tributes being so strong at this state of the game.
And currently, this timing from Louis ends up looking way more dangerous than most likely Puppypaw, or I for that matter, anticipated in this case, as the tributes as well as the men-at-arms. Now building a number quite rapidly here for Louis. Puppypaw only just now finished taking up. The veterancy for the contract of javelins is now in queue, but there's very little gold here for Puppy. There's going to be no cataphracts on the menu for him just yet. But it looks like the mass is going to be enough to push Louis away for now. And the Muscovy Yasak, you got to question the viability in this case, because there's only the Torguds for now on the field, as well as the Khan. Keshiks are very expensive for the Golden Horde to produce. They do not have the luxury that Mongol has to double produce them with the use of stone. They have to pay full price for 2 Keshiks at the exact same time here, but that is going to be the choice here for Louis, it seems. As the stable is dropped, he's going to go for the scouts first, which are also double produced. So it's going to be a little bit of a lull at this point in time. Relic gathering should be on the way for both players quite soon, but at this point it's quite difficult to afford.
But getting that extra stable is telling us exactly what he has in mind. He still was making a handful of archers now. But going for the relics next, we don't see Puppypaw thinking about those relics just yet. And that's actually pretty funny to think about, because Louis, he had to invest in actually making a monastery. Well, Byzantines, they get it for free by going for the winery. So now we can see that focus from Louis. He knows how important it is for the Golden Horde to get all those extra oohs. Puppypaw finally catching up with that thought. And now the push is still so scary. And now with the Keshiks in the mix, this becomes so hard. But those javelins need to be careful. If they overextend, he's not going to be making them anytime soon. Those berries are not unlimited.
You can see there's more of a lean into the Torguds now. Men-at-arms production has stopped for now. Did make a small mistake earlier. The Yasak does boost the ranged armor of heavy infantry as well. So that will apply to the tributes as well as the men-at-arms. So good detail here for Louis. You can see already just this system Byzantine economy is so out of control already. The javelin throwers are building rapidly in number, courtesy of the Golden Horde tower. And with just a little bit of room to breathe, Puppypaw is already mounting those cataphract numbers very quickly here, as he looks for a charge in onto these villages. Good little find, but the army is there from Louis to put a stopper to the further aggression. Meanwhile, another skirmish around that relic. Louis did pick off the monk as it heads back towards the winery to secure the relic, but is met by Puppypaw's reinforcements instead as he tries to go deeper. You know, Puppypaw's raid continues here on the north side. He discovers the gold secured by a fortified outpost here, but no upgrade on it yet. But the units are here to prevent any further damage outside of some idle time. The cataphract itself will lose its life as Puppypaw discovers loueMT's relic hole at this point in time. In the stealth forest, he manages to catch it. It can always be difficult with so much stealth forest on Pigeon's View. And another relic picked up by Puppypaw. He's going to look to secure it again as the Wall doesn't quite go off.
And that's the beauty of the Golden Horde in this position. With Golden Horde, you can see he's just investing in that mobility constantly, because he sees this is what Puppypaw wants to do. Puppypaw wants to split his army. But the difference is, Puppypaw's units, they are not that mobile at the moment, especially not with those handful of cataphracts that he's reliant on. He needs to keep these in bigger groups, but he still tries to do the raiding he can. This gives Louis an opening to pick off any stray groups of units, just like these javelin throwers who are standing a bit too far forward. There's no front line to take anything from these units. They're getting on top. He does try to kite them back just a little bit. Oh, and now the cataphract turning around, the loueMT making their way through, actually getting there onto the front lines, but those javelins need to be microed perfectly for this to actually give Puppypaw that edge. He's doing a ton of damage here, but the trades are looking pretty decent here from Louis. He is just absolutely destroying this, and this is the problem with javelin throwers. Javelin throwers, they require so much more to just perfectly execute, and Louis is showing us exactly what that mobility means as he is collapsing there onto the back lines, and Puppypaw is forced to retreat yet again.
Yeah,
and
the
by the way,
flank from the
Myriad,
heavy cavalry.
I just want to say, I know Twitch chat is complaining about the in-game audio, so while you're casting, I'm just going to make a few noises as those javelin throwers are going forward. Twitch chat, this is for you.
Yes, bear with us as we attempt to fix the technical issues here. We are sorry about that. We're doing everything in our power to fix them, so just bear with us as we witness the game here. It's getting very, very scrappy at this point in time. We saw the fantastic earlier flank from Louis' cavalry onto Puppypaw's javelin line. That dealt tremendous damage, but at the same time, Puppypaw, we saw that in the army count. Most of his army wasn't there, and he was busy dealing damage directly to Louis behind this, gaining himself quite the villager lead at this point in time. On the fortified outpost, villagers were idled and dead to these cataphracts, but Puppypaw pays a price for it, as his front line is at this point virtually non-existent, and the heavy cavalry from Louis keeps marching forward. The javelin count has been halved at this rate, Marika. There's little left for Puppypaw there on the offense.
The thing is, this is still Byzantines, right? He's done a bit of damage. The problem is Louis has been able to do it as well. I apologize, guys. Those game sounds, they made me giggle like a little girl here at the back here. So definitely not going to be able to keep those up with all these raids happening. But we do see that he was able to get a lot of idle time here because Louis is out on the map getting all this food. So is Puppypaw, as we see him snacking all those berries, not just for the berries, but also for the oil. And honestly, this is starting to become a little bit of a safe space for Louis. He's not too worried about these raids. The raids keep coming as we see the camel going on top of yet another villager. But the villagers will stay alive and the cataphracts look for more damage elsewhere. He's trying to attack in multiple spots, but he's just not able to find all the damage. And Louis has caught up in those vill kills, and Puppypaw, he's just not able to find that back. And you see with the groups of units being sent around and then clicked to attack move, they're fighting against other military units. They're not going to be getting the nice juicy villages they were intending to get. But as this is happening, we just see those villager kills going up and up. And the problem is just Puppypaw, he's going to need to shut down Louis before Golden Horde gets out of control.
And we did just miss a very significant raid from loueMT, unfortunately. He was there in the north side on the berries, I believe. So many villagers went down there for Puppypaw. Puppypaw, only a minute prior, had a 3 or 4 villager lead, and now it's loueMT in the driver's seat. Almost 8 villages ahead at this point in time. Very significant bonus, of course, as we mentioned. The cistern economy, the olive oil, the Golden Horde tower. This doesn't mean too much for Byzantines in this position, but the numbers are looking really scary from Louis now. So many Torguds, so many Keshiks, decent backline as well for him. But Puppypaw keeps leaning into what is so potent for Byzantines as well. With the cataphracts, the lance, the javelin throwers, as well as the camels now in the mix, applying that debuff towards all of Louis' cavalry. This might be a tougher fight than Louis can handle here, as Puppypaw looks for the decisive blow here, striking from 2 sides. His northern army is pushed back by loueMT's heavy armored forces, but this opens the way for the flank as the villages are now exposed and begin dying like flies. But Louis realizes just in time. He turns onto the javelin mass, but then gets surrounded by the northern army in this case, and it's looking like there's little left for Louis in this game as raids from the north as well. The men-at-arms, as well as the cataphracts, pushing him off of food, and he is now relegated under the TC. Louis, he's got nothing left.
Oh, and it looked so good there for him for a second, but with those javelins just flanking all the way through the wood line, he did what he could to turn around, but it just was a little too late. And it just shows you, Byzantines, when you let them get that oil, and when they get all those free units, the economy, it just matters. The fact that Louis was in the darkness, as Twitch chat just needs to imagine 10 villages going down in the north, this was massive, but it didn't have the time to pay off because with all those cisterns, you still have to keep in mind this economy is boosted. Even if he was behind with a few villagers, it is just him being on equal footing at that point. So absolutely much of a distraction from Puppypaw here. Very good. And Louis, he's now seen what the Byzantines can do. The thing is, I bet you he knew this. He just didn't want to go up against Malians because he thinks that Malians might be even worse for him to handle. So getting Byzantines out of the way, this is not the end of the world for Louis. He still has a lot of dirty tricks up his sleeve with that killer draft of his from the last game.
It's one of those cases, right, where quite often the opening game, there's two main strategies to look for it. You either pick a very reliable civilization that doesn't have too many bad matchups from your draft, right? And that way you cover yourself on all bases. You can reliably assume that you'll have a pretty, winnable game no matter what your opponent picks. And then there's the other camp where you kind of hope to bait out one of your opponent's best civilizations for one of your worst. And that way the pressure to win is heavily relieved. You know that you're in for a really tough game anyway. But at the same time, although you might give your opponent a win, they have then used up one of the best civilizations, in this case the Byzantines, for Puppypaw. So, not exactly the start loueMT was hoping for. You always want to win, even when you don't have the best civilization for the job. But removing the Byzantine possibility from Puppypaw is certainly something that is a plus here for Louis. So, although the paw is the law in this first game, as Puppypaw takes it, with the Byzantines, there's plenty more to come in this match, I'm sure, as Louis is going to now have the map pick. You see the replay here. So many fights in these stealth forests can be always very difficult to gauge which side is winning exactly without the vision. But the fights,
now,
economy favored him.
I love that currently we're sitting here on a sound setup, guys, that brought to you by loueMT's PC, not picking up Discord. So just so you know, if Maria and I talk over one another, this time you guys don't get to blame Cow. You have to blame me for that one. But I saw a few questions in the chat about what is coming up for the rest of the day as well. Guys, after the series we have Wham versus Marine Lord. So just so you know, this matchup that we're seeing right now, it gets even, I don't know if I want to say better, because Puppypaw and Louis, those are two names that we know is already freaking amazing. But Wham has been on fire, and Marine Lord, he needs to get shut down because there has been a little bit of a dominant streak between these. Now, we do see 5 minutes on the clock. So, ladies and gents, let's look at that draft that we just have here in front of us. I mean, what I'm loving from Puppypaw here is he went for both of our Delhi flavored civilizations, and Karlager is given to the Mongols. Ooh, and I can just imagine a nice little fast imperial. I know those days are behind us, but French was sniped. We've seen what French can do on this map. I understand, Puppypaw. I understand why you don't want to play against this. But talk me through the Tukluk snipe, Maria. Why are we sniping Tukluk here?
Tukluk is very quickly becoming one of the most oppressive hybrid map civilizations currently. We have seen them prioritized very heavily on Kawasan, on Karlager, even Holy Island. It has been looking really strong, and a big part of it is down to those elephant economics, as they call it. Any resources dropped off at the TC, at the dock, including from fishing ships, on the wood line at the elephants, it is all boosted by 5%, and there's another bonus as well. I think the actual gathering rate, if I'm not mistaken, it's in the upgrade. It's one of the upgrades, because Tukluk essentially has pretty much all their economic upgrades bunched up into one with that elephant economics. Woven baskets, I believe the first one is called, but I'm not completely sure. We can have a look if they do turn up later in this draft, potentially on Kawasan. But combine that, of course, with the shooting fishing ships that Delhi also has access to. The notorious healer elephants, of course. How can we not mention that unit? This creates a perfect storm with Tukluk is looking pretty scary on these types of maps, so no surprise seeing them banned there. The Mongols for Louis is historically with a classic, right? One of the best hybrid civilizations. So many great bonuses for them, and often a pretty decent matchup up against the Delhi, having access to the superior cavalry in the form of the Keshik, but not often the great economy to back it up, at least early in the game. So a bit of a classic matchup on a unusual map for it to happen. So quite a lot to look forward to, I think.
Now, usually the question is asked, so am I supposed to go on water? Am I supposed to do early aggression on this map? And we did see for a long time a lot of spearman rushes on Karlager itself, because you want to deny your opponent from having that optimal age-up timing, even if you just slowed him down a little bit. So what we've been seeing a lot from people is especially from Mongols, when they want to be a little bit of a greedy civilization, they usually do a little bit of early game shenanigans to just ensure that you have to respond to those shenanigans. And the next moment you open your eyes, they're imperial. So that's what Mongols has been doing great. The thing is, against Delhi, it doesn't work that way. Delhi, they don't need all the gold the other civilizations need to have a pretty good life here. So I feel the natural encounter between these two just ensures that Mongols, they don't get to be that greedy. And I can see there's a lot of people asking specifically about this pick and ban system that we have in front of us. And I'm just quickly going to show you guys or talk you through it so that you can understand, because for me, also confusing the first time. So we have the normal pick and bans. They're at the top, as you guys can see them. We ban 2 civs, pick 1, ban 1, pick the rest. It is all standard and normal. But what happens next is for every map, you pick 2 civs instead of just 1. And your opponent gets to say, and they just snipe that civilization. So you see that little gunshot mark? That is what your opponent decided he will not face on this day. So not this day. He's probably going to need to face it in the next game. So in the first game, we saw Malians getting sniped. This one, it's Taklak. And at the same time, Puppypaw has sniped French for this map. We saw why. French is not a civ you want to let through on this one. Mongols, also pretty scary. But I feel like what Delhi has is a pretty good answer to what you usually expect from a Mongols on this map. So, hope you guys understand. If you have more questions, you need to go ask Reddit. We're done. I'm joking. Feel free to ask more. Myriad will explain even better.
We are ever looking at that chat, so anything you would like to know, we are here to be your EGC tech support as well as entertainment at the very same time. It looks like we're only a few seconds out. And I'm very curious about this starting Dark Age in particular, because that will determine a big portion of how this match is going to go, I think. Of course, we have the shooting fishing ships from the Delhi, as well as the spear potential from Mongols. Likely both on the menu here as we load into game number 2 between Team Elephant's loueMT once again in the color yellow, as the Mongols sporting in the north side of Kerlauga, facing Puppypaw in the color red as the Delhi Sultanate. And looks like I do see some little dots traveling towards that western side. And it's going to be an aggressive dock as well here from Puppypaw, straight towards that center. For those who don't know, Kerlauga fishing, there are 3 fishing spots, clusters, so to say, on each river. One on each side for either player on both rivers. One in the middle on both sides, and one on the other player's side on both sides. So 6 total clusters of fish here, all up for grabs, of course, some safer than the others. And Puppypaw is going to look to take early control by taking the center cluster first and foremost, besides that sacred site. And Delhi's a very intelligent pick here for these reasons, right? You can assure your control over these sites with actual ships if you deem it worthy. There are only 2 sites, but both of them can be very heavily fortified with these docks. So loueMT, are we going to see a barracks from him? And considering he already has over 200 gold, I don't think we will.
Now, going up against Delhi is also not something we usually see where people say, oh, I'm going to shut down that gold. Because usually, if you see your opponent is going for something like an early aggression, you just grab a few villages, you go get the gold you need, and you're ready for your age up while responding to the rest of the rush. Now, the thing is, when we go and think about those spears in this scenario, they most likely want to be looking straight at the dock. Now, as the Mongols, for those of you who know, which I assume everyone knows because Twitch chat, YouTube chat, I know you guys are all Conk 3 right there. You're making up the whole Conk 3 ladder. So you guys know that Mongols gets resources for burning stuff. So they don't mind if you make a little dock because it gives them a little bit of initiative to go and respond to this right after. Now, Louis is going to be aging up a bit faster than Puppypaw here, as he just did not invest onto the water. So the water is going to slow Delhi down. But after that, things will get a little hairy. Now, we'll see what Louis decides to go for after this, because what we see from the Mongols here is we can look for that little bit of mobility to shut down multiple spots by going for the Keshiks or just going for those plain old spearmen to try and burn stuff down. But the thing is, when you're up against a dock and you know they can just make an archer ship, it just doesn't feel as good to invest in all those spears. But we do see 4 villagers on wood there already. He is chopping his way through all the way to his first production building.
Yes, I understand the hesitation to go spears here for Louis. Of course, the arrows from the fishing ships of Delhi, depending on the angle of the dock and the concave around the water, is going to be quite difficult to overcome depending on that. So the spears can be hard pressed to find some value. The gold as well, right? As we mentioned, especially for Delhi, got to save that scholar. It's not like you're really going to push them off before they get enough for the age up. They even have access to that secondary back gold, which they could even long distance mine if it is necessary for him. But that's not going to be the case. As you mentioned, Louis, already halfway through that age up and gathering the resources he needs to start his plans. And I'm quite curious about the plans because there's no dock drop yet. That is a classic move as the Mongols here. Of course, you can get that arrow slit so easily on the dock. But again, the issue is these fishing ships. How are we ever going to secure this as Louis here?
Now, 5 fishing ships are so scary to play against already because they are just cleaning up those patches of fish. And it's going to be fast. Guys, we just got a note that we will not be able to restore the game sound just yet, but we are going to be trying to get that back up soon. So in the meantime, we will be hearing Whammon's as the Khan is attacking every villager he can, just getting a little bit of a shot off, because you guys know what's next. A good little Keshik follow-up could mean that that villager who just got fired down is going to be cooked when there's one good charge on top of his head. But that's what Puppypaw knows, and he's pulling back. He knows, I cannot let you guys stand out too far, because once the pressure arrives, there's no stopping it. Now, I would love to see what Louis went for first here with those production buildings, as we do see a dock on his top side as well, securing that river, making sure that he gets a little bit of fishing going himself. And an archery range is the choice here, and I am so ready. But I don't know if Puppy is ready for the Mangadai, but this is going to be a lovely time for anyone who wants to shut down those external food sources.
Yes, the Mangodai timing in this position is when it can yield the most fruit here for Louis. Of course, Puppypaw's age up is heavily delayed by that investment into the docks, as well as the fishing ships, so his Ghazi raiders in turn will be delayed. So then when you have more Mangudai than enemy horsemen, it can get very tricky indeed, especially because horsemen already struggle to catch up to them, especially if the Khan's signal arrow is also in play, due to the Mangudai being able to constantly shoot on the move. Very potent bonus for them. And especially on this kind of a map, you can see already Puppypaw understands the grave danger of those Mangudai and wastes no time in setting up walls. Now a tower being rushed up as well, even before the Mangudai actually hit the field. It's going to be looks like Khan's Hunters in queue as well for Louis here. App choice, of course, the Khan's Hunter giving an extra little range. I believe it's half a range or even less than that in the feudal age to the Mangudai, if I'm not wrong. But every little counts when it comes to harassing these woodlines. Now the stable is being rushed up. Ghazis are on the menu here for Puppypaw, and you will need both Ghazis and archers to deal with these units effectively.
Now, we do see a little prelate there, or prelate, I call him, that he is healing up everyone he can as that Khan is firing away at the villagers. He knows the value of this. These scholars need to heal everything and anything as the Khan is standing there at the woodline, and we've played against this. Twitch chat, you've played this on ladder. When Mongols just circles your little woodline, he gets a nice little vision across from it and snipes down your villagers one by one. Now, Puppypaw responding with the Ghazi Raiders, this is a pretty good move here. This is the most logical move you could make, especially when you're dealing with a greedy goose Mongol player, because this is usually where you see the Mongols living their best life and going in any direction they feel, and usually that direction is upwards. But Louis says, I will be going for Keshiks instead. Now, going for the Keshiks just means that Puppypaw is going to need to find more than just Ghazis to deal with this. Louis already has such a decent economy on water, but it doesn't just match what Puppypaw has up until now. And these Mangadai, they are annoying, but we have to keep in mind, there are still scholars here at the back that will be able to heal them up if given the time. The thing is, I just don't know if he's going to have enough time to do so.
The delay in fishing can be very costly here for the player that is delayed. We can see that manifested in the food income already. Puppypaw, a firm 200 ahead, quite consistently at this point in time. Louis, it does still have a little bit to go until he actually matches the fishing ship numbers, but that can be offset with the use of a highly mobile composition like Louis is employing right now. The Keshiks with the Mangudai and the Khan's Hunters are going to do great on the offense in harassment, but speaking of, Puppy looks to flip the script and finds himself a villager on those deer that Louis had went for to supplement his food income. Very nice pickup, and of course, they will easily outrun this Keshik who, although stronger 1v1, that's not the case 1v3, and Puppy actually finds the mass from loueMT a little bit overextended, but there's too much here for him to actually contain, and loses a Ghazi for it. Another Ghazi is very low on health, and that's also going to get sniped. The extra range coming in so useful here for Louis. Maybe another Ghazi is going to go down as well, but is met by the charge, so he will get away. Great pickups here for Louis.
Usually at this point of the game, the question is who runs out of food first. We saw Louis out there on the deer because this man, he needs the food right now. Everyone needs the food right now. Puppypaw with those extra fishing ships, he is going to be okay replenishing these, but at the same time, this is not something you have infinite amounts of. He's now getting that 13th Ghazi into his army, and at the same time, getting a few blacksmith upgrades as this is going on. Getting the +1 ranged armor against the Mangudai is going to be so important. But now, with an extra stable now coming on in, this is going to mean that those Keshiks are going to become plentiful. And yes, Ghazis, they do extra damage against Keshiks because they're armored units. It doesn't mean you want to be fighting them because the battle of mobility is in the hands of the Mongols, especially with him moving his landmark this far out. Those Keshiks might catch up now, but once it's placed down yet again, this is going to be a fun time for Louis to micro. Puppypaw, though, he knows he still has the food advantage with this. He knows he needs to be aggressive and shut down what his opponent can't handle. And he's doing a pretty good job at this, with those Keshiks just chasing around, wasting their time. But Puppypaw has found a little bit of different damage here in form of a boat.
Puppypaw is going to look to try to leverage his own mobility with the sheer investment into Ghazi here. But the issue is as you mentioned, the deer stones, a bit of an understated advantage here for the Mongols, is going to give an immense amount of extra movement speed to his own cavalry. And Louis understands this Ghazi investment, as you mentioned, the additional, actually a third stable now, I believe, for Louis. He's going to look to keep swelling those Keshik numbers. And as we mentioned, the extra bonus damage against heavy from the Ghazi, a very potent bonus here, but at the end of the day, the healing, the additional armor and health on these Keshiks is going to prove victorious in the end as the numbers keep growing. Already we see, although the Ghazi have extra numbers here, the Keshiks prove a little bit too much for them. Meanwhile, more Keshiks split off towards this dock, looking to apply pressure. Puppypaw actually picks up another economic kill. Might have been a fishing ship this time round, I believe. And the numbers just keep swelling. There's no castle age in sight here, Mareka. They're just going all out.
And I love seeing this from these two, just ensuring that they use the civilization's strengths to the best abilities. You can now see with Puppypaw, he knows I cannot keep fighting around this. I need to move out and do real damage. But that's where the problems begin. The moment these Mangudai are left to roam and just run around and attack what they can, things will go a little bit nuts. We say that, but the Keshik here takes quite a bit of damage and one will go down, but a Ghazi Raider also pays the price. The numbers are just on the side of Louis, and he's going to be able to reinforce this so much easier with these Ghazi numbers now plummeting. The problem is, the food is just such a critical point here, and we see every bit being spent by Louis, while Puppypaw is now thinking about castle. I say this, he's got 5 Ghazis in queue, but he's got a lot of gold there on the side, and this could just be because he's getting it from a sacred side, but with that amount of gold, you usually feel like that was mined at the same time. Now, he's going to be cut off from wood pretty soon as well, and this is where things roll out of control. Now the Keshiks, the front line, going straight into the wood, but the boys are running for the gate, hoping to survive. The Mangudai picking off what they can, but the thing is, that wall is run-buyable if they so please, but a lot of damage has been done to the army. He doesn't want to invest too much, but The question now is Louis going to be able to do a critical amount of damage in feudal if Puppypaw decides to go up to the next age here? The thing is, if he does, I think he's dead.
Speaking of damage, the numbers for Louis are looking incredible on the Keshiks, but they are not all together, and Puppypaw looks for a surround here from multiple angles, but Louis manages to squeeze his way past with the movement speed signal, and the reinforcement Keshiks are now joining the fray, and you can see the numbers. When you have even Ghazi numbers to Keshiks, you know you are in big, big trouble. Meanwhile, behind this Puppypaw, we see where that investment went. It is in the age up. House of Learning is now on the way, speedily with the 17 villages, so if Puppypaw can withstand this aggression, he could potentially then be in an economic lead and tempo lead with that age up, but it's a tough position to play as Louis is showing no fear whatsoever, diving directly past the TC. He's gonna look for more stray economy here from Puppypaw, and the numbers only keep dwindling here for Puppypaw whilst Louis continues to swing. He's gonna discover the age up. Disaster for Puppypaw at the worst of times. Good kiting with the villagers. He's going to put them to the other side. The Ghazis will block off the rest of the Mangudai, but there's so many villagers about to go down here for Puppypaw.
Oh, the slaughter, the bloodshed, the Keshiks are just clapping heads, people falling. We see poor Scholars there on the ground. No prayer was strong enough to keep them alive as the Keshiks are just cleaning up everything. Who dares look at them? And the thing is, Louis is not slowing down. Twitch, if you look at that production queue, he's making more and more Keshiks. He's like, if you don't want to die, let me introduce you to moreknights.com, where we bring you the best damage in all of the land with everyone paying the price. More villagers running towards that TC, just going to be jumping in as the arrow fires will increase, but the arrow fire may increase. 24 villagers is not going to cut it.
Only further and further Puppypaw keeps to bleed here. The tower, providing some respite for 5 villagers here on the gold, but a single Keshik is keeping them trembling in there. It's gonna get cleaned up, but there's just more dives here from Louis, who just keeps investing. 20 Keshiks on the field. These 5 villagers in this outpost are trembling for their lives yet again, but Louis just misses the exit there. He's gonna pick up 1 on the retreat. Gonna probably just with that one, but there's no more space. He can't garrison the rest of them. The rest of them also fall. 3 more here. 16 villager kills at this point for Louis. It's only getting worse and worse here for Puppy. He does not have the economy to get enough any military here together to withstand this push. Lancers in queue now for Puppypaw more and more, but the numbers aren't there, Mareka. It's too many Keshiks, and the healing is going to be even worse here for Puppypaw. As any fight these Keshiks take, they're going to get hungrier and beefier with health as well. Louis.
This is the problem when you are aging up against anyone with this amount of units. It could just mean that you are going down. And Louis said exactly that. He saw, hey, you've just invested all of these resources into getting to Castle Age, and that just meant an absolute destruction here. We see the scholars trying to heal up these knights, these lancers, trying to lance their way through these Keshiks, and they're doing a pretty good job at the trades, but just with the healing at the back, and the healing is the next target here. So these guys paying the price next, and we do see yet another lancer popping out, but the problem is the numbers are not going to be enough to face off against this. With all the heals now being taken down, Puppypaw will be thinking about what is next for him, and possibly just waiting to see if this type of aggression slows down. The TC is idle, everything is idle. There is just nothing for Puppypaw left in this. Oh, Mariad, I think he's holding on to a dream.
A fleeting dream at this point in time, isn't it, for Puppypaw here in game number 2. He's relegated now to just producing Ghazis because of the sheer absence of gold gathering for him, which he just cannot get no matter how much he tries here. The Keshiks just keep circling. The numbers have dwindled, but it's only because loueMT has found his own age up behind this. The upgrade is now coming through. The veterancy on the Keshiks is likely going to be the final nail in the coffin here for Puppypaw in this game, as the additional stats will be too much to hold against. There's still very little military presence here from Puppypaw. He simply does not have the economy anymore and does not have the access to resources to employ that economy, the little of it that he still has left. Step Redoubt is also now placed by Louis. He doesn't even feel like he needs the Kurultai to finish off Puppypaw. He's looking very cozy in this game number 2 here. Villagers again running desperately to find some respite, but they're only going to be met by more Keshiks and more running as Louis just keeps ever diving here, and Puppypaw is just on his last legs in here.
Puppypaw might be thinking that there's a way out of this, as we see him still producing Ghazis, and with him still queuing up all the upgrades, he's not giving up. And I don't know if this is just to ensure that Louis gets tired and worn out, but the question is, what is his plan here? These guys, the Keshiks, now absolutely destroying even more, with now another scholar going down between all of this, and it feels like Puppypaw is hanging on. He not probably knowing exactly what damage was done, feeling like the damage he had done was going to be enough, as we see Puppypaw doing a counterattack at this exact moment on the side of Louis' base. So this is a constant aggression on every side, but Louis has the same idea, and Puppypaw, he realizes this is enough. I will go to the next one and see what we can do about that.
GG is called as Louis strikes back in game number 2 to tie up the series 1-1 here as the opening set of Sunday here at EGC Masters Finals. Good little attempt there by Puppypaw at the end. This is when you want to raid the most, when you are under pressure yourself. It can easily take the opponent off guard, but by that point it was too little, too late. Too much damage has been dealt. Too many villages have been lost. Poor Puppy. There was just nothing left for him to actually fight with at that point. And Louis closes out the game quite decisively here near the end. Very tumultuous feudal age there between these two players. And, you know, eventually you want to find that age up, especially as the Delhi in this position, because the massive Keshiks will just keep building. And it's not really something you can contest at some point later in that feudal age with the Delhi, unless you have the exact composition necessary. But Puppy was already stretched thin, investing so much into those Ghazis. And when that age up gets discovered on the dive, you can see what follows.
So when we get into these spots, I think a lot of the players, remember, we have God Vision Twitch chat and Myriad. We have every bit of insight we need. But Puppypaw, it feels like he had to know what was in this. And at this point, I think Puppypaw may be just using that last bit of the game to think about, what do I do next? What map do I pick next? And his answer is Kawasan. The thing is, this is a funny statistic that we did a while ago. We asked the players what maps they wanted in tournaments. And we asked people to vote for the maps that they wanted and didn't want. And Louis was one of the people who likes his maps nice and dry. So Puppypaw, being one of the players who likes his map of all variety, I can see why Puppypaw would feel comfortable picking something like Kawasan. So Kawasan is not a map where you go in and you haven't practiced this a significant amount of time. Puppypaw, he's played this map. We've seen him do some insane things on this map as well. He knows his civilizations, he knows the boundaries, and him getting Zushi on this map already tells us that this could be a nice spicy game. Maria, do you remember the days of Zushi in the early game and what they do here?
It's a bit of an oppressive strategy, Wellman, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Kawasan, for those who aren't aware, quite a nice little hybrid map, one of my personal favorites as well here. And there's 2 ponds, both with 4 deep sea fish and plenty of shoreline fish up for grabs for either side, of course. Normally equidistant, depending on the way the map spawns. There can be some funky spawns here in terms of the way the players are positioned relative to each other. But the center there, if you look closely, you will be able to see a sprawling field of those berries. And, well, we know the meditation gardens, don't we? We know the amount of resources that can be generated with a good spawn. And quite often, Zushi can leverage it on this map for a very severe injection of food early game, which is all they need to contest the enemy dock. Quite often, Zushi will skip docks altogether for that fast age up in the center, get the food needed whilst gathering wood behind, and they can afford to produce villages as well as ships without having access to any fishing yet.
Mm-hmm.
But Knights Templar on the other side is no slouch whatsoever.
It's no slouch, and they used to be undefeated on water for a very long time, but we know that's not the case anymore. I've heard a few birdies talking about the abilities of Knight Templar, and it's not the scary civilization we faced before. So a lot of me is surprised seeing that Knights Templar was the pick here for Louis. Now, Louis might still be feeling confident in this. The problem is when you're practicing this many matchups, there's so much to practice for. I think most players, they try to practice for everything, but there's no way you get to practice on every single map, every single matchup to know how it plays out like it did before. And the experience he's playing with now on Kawasan, I don't know if it's one season too late applying that. Now, Aobid's getting sniped. That's very understandable. Puppypaw does not want to deal with Aobids on this map. That is an insane civilization to do with. Taklak as well. Taklak is a civilization that most people say is pretty scary on water, and Louis knows this. So KT, not in the same spot they were 3 to 6 months ago. So I'm a little bit worried for Louis here, especially finding a place where he can respond to what Zushi does in the early game with that disgusting meditation garden in the middle of the map.
I think there are a few tricks that KT can pull out of their sleeve here, having played this map and matchup a couple of times recently. Most notably with KT. We can go through the changes a little bit here as we prepare to get into the game. We'll just get through that first, but there's some spicy things going on here for KT that I'm very excited to see Louis utilize if it does come to it. Part of the reason I'm surprised that Iobid was sniped first, I'm not sure if Puppypaw, obviously an incredible player, he might be aware of exactly the potential of KT here and just doesn't believe in it compared to Iobid's potentially. Or he might feel more comfortable against KT for that matter, despite knowing their strength. I think we'll have to see. But KT, of course, they've received a couple of changes. Notably, the wood gathering has been shaved a little bit. Okay, so it is worse than before by a slight margin. The bigger change, however, is the docks, which are now harbors, actually. And they cost an additional 100 wood, a very significant investment here, even for Knights Templar, in combination with the lower wood. That's quite big for them. But you get some nice extra perks for that increased price. We're going to look at that very, very soon here as we witness game number 3 here between Puppypaw and loueMT. loueMT in the color yellow, once again, as the Knights Templar here on Kawasan, spawning in the north, facing Puppypaw, who spawns in the southwest here in the color red as the Zushi. And this is one of the spawns I was referring to. This is not your typical mirrored Age of Empires 4 spawn that you see on virtually every map almost, except outside of a few exceptions. Here we have a direct opposite spawn towards this northern side, so that center pond between them is the main one that's going to be up for contention, and that secondary one will likely not be as important, at least initially, unless a player looks to sneak there early and give up on the northern one. But Knights Templar, what do you pay for with that extra wood? Well, you have way more health on these docks. You potentially have access to a springboard emplacement in the feudal age for the price of 150 stone and I think it's 50 wood or 50 gold, one of the two. Now that's going to be very, very potent, even more than a regular arrow slits, which is already a big help on water. But on top of that, Whammon, we have an additional, what is it, plus 15 or 20 or 25? It's one of those three. Plus that percentage extra health on all nearby military ships. And upon this small Whammon, that is going to make a very big difference.
So with Knights Templar, you already have a little bit of an advantage when it comes to the age up timing that you can do. But with him investing into ships, we need to see how deep he goes before the age up thoughts start happening. Now, Louis on this hand, as we can see now, he's already going onto the gold. Puppypaw is very close to that age up. And against the normal civilization, this would mean that he could possibly not match, but be close to that age up timing. The problem is, this is Zushi, and they can age up pretty quickly, and especially with this position he is going to do. a really nice little bit of income for himself. Now, we do see our observer pointing out where he could have put it to get a little bit more there. Now, I don't know exactly if those would capture all the side berries as well, but at the same time, it does feel like that spawn could have been a little bit stronger. Still a pretty sturdy income there for Puppypaw. And from the previous times that we played this map, we know that some civilizations like to block that meditation garden in the juicy spot. In this case, just no blocking happening. Now, Louis is steadily thinking about that age up himself as we see him putting more villagers onto the food to try and get this done as quickly as possible. Because now, Puppypaw, he's getting the age up, but what happens next? Does he decide, okay, I'm going to contest water? Am I just going to go for a fast castle and try to overwhelm you? But Puppypaw, he's not irresponsible. We do see that wood going up really fast. So the dock is inevitable as we see those villagers moving into position to place it down there on the side.
A little bit surprised not to see barracks thrown up here in the Dark Age for Louis. That's one of the ways that for the price of only 3 spares, you can delay the Zushi way more than you delay yourself with them and get yourself that age up timing to contest the Zushi dock in good timing. But that's not going to be the case here for Louis. Instead, he's going to go for a slightly faster age up, but with no delay on Puppypaw whatsoever. And you can see the strength of that timing already manifest. The KT age up is still 30 seconds out at this point, and the galley is soon to finish already here for Puppypaw. And although the garrison slots are there for the dock, that will completely halt the fishing here for Louis.
Now, we do see Puppypaw getting in a pretty good spot. And what I love about these top-tier players is they always move into a really nice position before attacking this. Now, the 4 slots here, this helps immensely, especially in this little bit of a weak timing that we see here for him. But Louis, he doesn't have the wood in the bank to be able to make something instantly. So this does still give a few extra seconds of idle time as the wood is ticking in slowly, and he's finally queued up that ship. This is going to mean that Puppypaw's follow-up needs to be potent, and he needs to keep it in a good position here, because very quickly this can snowball back to the Knights Templar as we do see what they can do on the side of water usually. But Puppypaw at the same time, he's going to dock that other lake as well, feeling pretty confident in just winning the war on water while going for the other water himself. And the thing is, he doesn't even need to win this war. He just needs to slow down Louis so that Louis doesn't get any of the advantages he usually would in a position like this, having the water for that extra bit of time. Demolition ship going to be doing some great work, standing in position here, trying to ensure, I'm not sure, did he forget to explode it? Oh, Maria, did you just forget to explode it? Or was he doing a tactic?
He was doing a tactic. He knows about the health, Marika. He knows you need the Springle ship to be almost on half HP for the demo to actually kill it in influence of these KT docks. And I think it's a blunder from Puppypaw. He missed the secondary dock going up completely. And suddenly, when he had the advantage in fish, in the tricomp of ships, it is now completely gone. And Louis, with the fishing ships, with the extra health on his own ships, has completely taken control now of this pond. There's nothing left for Puppypaw on this pond any longer. He has secured the secondary pond behind this, but pays a heavy price for it, as he is now dead on this side of the water, most likely, and as there's some severe miss micro here from Louis, but I don't see that happening at all. And now, suddenly, Louis in a commanding position in this game number 3.
Now, this is a pretty interesting thing because, of course, if Puppypaw keeps producing ships here, Louis is going to need to produce ships here. And, of course, Louis is going to win this water fight eventually, but he can force Louis to just keep investing. And Louis has stopped investing for this moment. We don't see him queuing up another ship, but he does have some decent numbers. Demo ship does get sniped down perfectly. Fishing ships on next. And all of a sudden, this move from Puppypaw, he's just forcing Louis to invest more. But Louis says, I'm not planning to invest more here just yet. I say that and he queues up the Springle ship. Maybe pausing that bit of a investment just stopped him from being able to get this pond back completely. And this is the problem. With water, you can't see if your opponent's just like, hey, I'm going to keep investing. You just have to guess. So Louis, it could have gone two ways. He stops investing and this happens, or he stops investing and his opponent also stopped investing and he can take back that water very, very easily. Pretty good shot here onto that Springald ship though. And now Louis can make his way back into taking control of this yet again. It gives him that little bit of breathing room, especially with the Knights Templar and getting all of that wood so easily. That fishing ship just trying to keep everyone alive as he's trying to stay in this.
Louis was getting a little bit overzealous there with the trades and his advantage, overstepping his bounds against the incoming demos from Puppypaw, who now is still has a fighting chance on this starting pond, and at this point has severely exceeded Louis in economy. Of course, Knights Templar are typically behind by 2 by default because of that age up. But even in fishing ships now, Puppypaw is in a commanding lead, and he keeps taking good trades as he finds another demo. The Springald ship is now under threat, but the extra HP proves clutch here as the galley from Puppypaw falls, so there's no further defense for these Springald ships from any demos if they are to come out. Puppy is going to reassert his military onto the galley, which is running away. He manages to snipe it out with his last Springald ship, but pays the price of a Springald ship with his own as Louis' demo comes out, and another demo is now chasing the Springald ship, who's going to try to get the repairs from the villagers, but the villagers are in danger at this point, but he doesn't detonate it in time, and the villagers survive, as well as the Springald ship.
Oh, Maria, this just means that Louis, he has to invest yet again. For a moment there, it looked like he was going to win this convincingly. But Puppypaw's reinvestment, just a little bit every time, was more than enough to just ensure that Louis has to keep his attention focused here. And while his attention is focused there, guys, there is a little bit of a horseman transition. And I don't want to be the man on land dealing with a bunch of mobile units running that quickly, causing a lot of panic as I'm focused on getting this water back. Yet again, another galley going down, and that horseman is about to land. This is going to tell Louis, I need to make a plan, and nothing I have right now instantly. He sees, okay, the horseman's here. I pull back, villagers still committing to that stable, and every single ship the Puppypaw brings out here just stops Louis from reacting optimally.
We can see here Louis historically known for not really enjoying water micro or water fights that much, and in a way you can almost see it manifested here. It appears like Puppypaw is fighting with just a little bit more hunger on this pond here. Seems like he really wants to take control. Of course, Louis is doing his best to fight here, but a couple of slip-ups there, which shouldn't have really happened, cost him quite dearly and mean that that pond is still up for contention, which should not be the case here for Louis. And now with the horseman on his gold, his position is only looking a little bit more dire. Pushed off of gold now, Louis has. We have that first Chevalier Confrere out of the stable. But the horseman numbers keep building here from Puppypaw. The pond, however, investment has slowed down to a crawl, and we can see exactly why. Only one galley is left here on this pond. Puppypaw is willing to finally concede it after having really supplemented his fishing on the secondary pond. But the follow-up is there. Castle Age, only moments away from Puppypaw at this point in time. This is where the extra investment went. And with Louis so heavily delayed, I feel like he's in big trouble.
Now, Louis did a pretty good job at shutting down these horsemen on his gold, but he's up against Zushi. And guys, a normal civilization going Castle Age, it does not feel that scary. Zushi, on the other hand, with a full sack pond there at the bottom, he is going to be producing units at the speed of light. The stable is already up as he has been producing horsemen non-stop. But this just means that the Mount Lu Academy gets followed up with a bunch of spicy extra horses that don't have an answer, especially not in the base of Louis. Louis, now pushed off of gold, even just for a little while, is just not in the spot where he can make anything that can handle what Puppypaw is about to put on offer. And this is the problem when you're playing in Zushi, that age-up timing is so fast with even just 7 villagers. He's trying to get a third dock up too. Louis wants that lake and he needs it. But now we see Louis not producing anything. And is this just going to mean that he tries to go for castle himself? I say that, and more Chevalier are queued up. He realizes, I'm going to need to make units because the pain train is about to come. And that pain train, as we can see, is going to be in the form of lancers. The loueMT is back, and he doesn't want to fight against lancers.
loueMT has been engaged. They do say some men starve and some men drown, and that is the case here in game number 3 for Louis. As he finishes his dock, Puppypaw finishes his Castle Age landmark, and the pressure is about to really mount up here as the lancers start coming in queue. Delhi horses will undoubtedly be on the cards later on for that increased attack speed, which is going to be even more painful for Louis in this position. He understands the threat. As we mentioned, the walls are coming up in multiple angles. Spearmen are already on the field and being actively produced, and he will need plenty of them in order to survive this timing. Tower, priority on the gold here for Louis. The spearmen are there, however, to contest this, and the mass is good here from Puppypaw within Louis' base. The Chevalier Confrere are going to connect from the north side. They'll look to contest this as well, and they should be able to clean up this forward army here from Puppypaw. But this is only the stragglers. The first Lancer has arrived, and even taking down one Lancer in this position is easier said than done for loueMT. He's going to look to desperately secure that tower, but he's going to need way more gold than what that tower can give him in order to age up here, whilst having to produce units at the same time. And Puppypaw still way ahead in fishing ships here. We can see the food economy is more than double, close to triple now for Puppypaw.
And me imitating a poor horse in hopes of becoming game sound myself, these horses are just going to rain havoc down on every single resource. These poor villagers are running for their lives past a little bit of trees, keeping the villagers at work as the reinforcements are arriving and just taking down every other chevalier who dares step out. Now, the spearman engagement Louis was able to take was so good, but now the lancer numbers, it's a little bit too much to just take down with a handful of spears you've got. A few of them do fall, and this feels like Puppypaw not using them 100% efficiently. The thing is, he doesn't need to. Louis is in so much danger. We do see him getting textiles as well. He's desperate to keep these villagers alive, but he doesn't have the gold to do anything else. And yet another set of lancers are going to idle out morevillagers.com. Myriad, I don't really know what to say. These horses, they're just unstoppable. And it just doesn't feel like the spearmen are an answer to any of their harassments. And the Pilgrim, the last hope of gold, goes down as well. Disgusting. Puppypaw just now switching to Palace Guards too. This makes it even harder because those spears, now all of a sudden, they're not going to do anything.
Yep. It's over, Red Rover. Here for loueMT in game number 3. He's now scrambling just to even get a lick of gold off of the mine, but the Lancers just won't stop coming. And the Palace Guards that have now also been upgraded to veterancy, they are going to be on the way as well to deal with the Spears quick time too. Another stable, another 2 stables, as well as a secondary barracks thrown up here by loueMT, but he has no gold, no food. The wood is stagnating as well as the idle time starts mounting up immensely here for him. The walls are up at this point, but the main point of contention is that gold mine, and he can't exactly secure it there. Puppy swelling the numbers further. He doesn't even care about Relic's Whammon. He just wants to kill him outright.
And he is going to be able to do exactly that if Louis doesn't find a way to claw through the number of Palace Guards just rallying his way. Those spears looking okay against what's been hitting them, but we just see those attack dots going off everywhere and him desperately trying to get a little bit of gold while he can. The spearman numbers are just not enough to do anything about this. 9 villagers inside that TC firing back. That is the problem though. He needs more than 9 villagers to be working, and just firing at those lancers that are barely taking any damage, this feels a little bit rough. We do see another sneaky little upgrade coming in from Puppypaw, ensuring that his attacks are going to get worse and worse. But Louis, with the villagers, standing for a second to just look at what has been happening, it looks like he's finally made peace with it in a way. More units still being rallied out, but you can see the production is slowing down, most likely because the food is slow as well, and the villagers are just standing next to that TC with no more space to hide, and the Lancers will finally destroy them as well. Unfortunately, this means the end for the Kawasan journey of Louis. But this was Puppypaw's pick. He felt confident in this. We had to see this from Puppypaw, and he did a fantastic job at ensuring that Louis was overwhelmed completely.
That's right. After taking a loss, when you have the map pick next, that is, of course, when you want to make sure that your strategy and your decision to go for that map pays off fully, which it now has for Puppypaw in game number 3. As if it wasn't enough having to deal with it on land there at the end for Louis, Puppypaw had reinvested into the docks as well on Louis' pond and began harassing him on water at the same time with the galley. It was just too much for Louis at the end, and Puppypaw now taking the lead yet again in this set, 2-1. But the roles are reversed once more. Louis is now the one who's going to pick the map. I'm quite curious to see what he's going to go for. We know he doesn't enjoy water, and that is all of the water maps in the set possible out of the way for him. And the next pick, no surprises there. It's going to be the old reliable. It's going to be Dry Arabia. And, oh, what a spicy matchup we have on our hands. China up against Sengoku Daimyo here on Dry Arabia. Two of the most busted, disgusting civilizations currently in the game. Oh, I can't wait.
So basically, when I look at... Am I hearing game sounds as well, slowly coming into my ears? Guys, I might just be going nuts, but I hope for you guys, there are some game noises coming in to join us today. Before we talk about the game noises, Malians got sniped. Again, just as a review, because I know a lot of you haven't been here since the start, Malians got chosen by Puppypaw, Malians in China. No Malians, this being the second time. So he stands by this. He doesn't want Malians in his games. But on the other hand, Puppypaw, he did get rid of Sengoku earlier. This time, he said French is going to be way worse to handle. So Sengoku, the choice for him to play against. And I'm honestly excited to see what Louis does with Sengoku. Sengoku being one of my favorite civilizations, they are quite a handful, but once you can shut them down, it feels okay. You just need to not let them get far enough ahead. The problem with China, they give you a little bit of time, especially now.
That's the issue, right? The sniping of French in favor of Sengoku here, I find frankly insane here from Puppypaw. The balls of sheer aluminium steel on this man is a bit insane to me, but we'll see how that works out. The thing is, loueMT's French is just a real force to be reckoned with. We've seen it time and time again. Louis just knows how to squeeze this civilization to its maximal value, and Puppypaw wants none of it, especially on the China. China economy is an absolute powerhouse, and their timings are severely strong. But French can take advantage of that, and they are often forced into a defensive position, which we know Puppypaw despises, being a very aggressive player nowadays. But against the Sengoku, Shinobi, I don't know what to say.
I really hope the Twitch chat can hear these noises that we're hearing, Myriad, because this feels hopeful and very, very loud as the scout is running around looking for sheep already. Guys, are you ready for a game with sound? I just hope I can hear myself as this is going in. So guys, we are ready to roll in. Let's go on to Dry Arabia.
Dry Arabia is going to be
maybe not.
Oh, not quite yet. We're going to give it just a couple of extra minutes, most likely.
Okay. We're going to need to be yapping for a little bit more as the sound gods are figuring out exactly what they're going to be doing. But a little bit about the Chinese Sengoku matchup. Myriad, what do you feel we might be on the lookout here for?
We've seen professional scouts still be the choice for China in the vast majority of games, and it makes perfect sense. The timing is just really good for them. They will lose food compared to before the decay change on the deer, of course. So they will not have as much as they would like, and we know that they love spending that food. So I wouldn't be too surprised to see the very same here from Puppypaw. Now, Puppypaw's China is known historically as being truly scary. Quite often we've seen Barbican rushes employed as well, and honestly, it's not the craziest idea up against something like Sengoku. We know how oppressive they can be if allowed to sit back. But that might be on the menu for us here today, as we are now present in game number 4 between Puppypaw in the color red as his signature Chinese on Dry Arabia, facing loueMT
And
on one of the new kids on the Sengoku in the color yellow.
what I like here is actually seeing now what Louis' choice is going to be with those yatais. We see the sheep being moved in position as another load of wood is dropped off. And those villagers, Louis is someone who likes efficiency. And efficient he shall be. As with those villagers now chopping, they're going to be dropping off their wood. He's going to get yet another yatai and very, very quickly switch over to the sheep so that age of timing is not lost on him. Now, this looks like Puppypaw is going to have a pretty solid timing here for the age up, as China usually does. This is nothing too surprising, but we do want to look at the food holes between these two. And just another shout out to all those diverse sheep. Love seeing those guys all hopping towards their death as they go straight towards the base. And yet another black sheep going to be joining the red parade all the way back there. But now this is pretty heavy amount of food for Puppypaw already in the early game. And like you said, they do like to go for pro scouts, but looking at the deer spawns as well, I feel like this is pretty good for Puppy. He doesn't have a position where if he gets shut down on one side, he's not going to have access to the deer. So it feels like a safer investment than we usually have if our deer spawn is a little bit too close to one another, such as Louis' side. With the deer being on the same side, this just means if the yatai is pushed out there, they can quickly be shut down if China is the one putting the pressure up.
That's right. Combine that with the fact that it looks like Louis is fully investing into the yatai. You can get up to 3 in the Dark Age, and a maximum of 60 food per minute can be granted next to the boar or next to deer in combination with berries, as well as sheep potentially. Deer give the second most after boar, of course, and then it's berries, and then it is sheep. We see 52 here in the influence of 8 deer for this yatai. The one further in the north on the boar is going to give that maximal 60 food per minute. Now, because of this age up, Puppypaw's Pro Scout is going to be pretty much completely uncontested and up for grabs for him. loueMT's age up time is going to be severely delayed as a result of this, but his own economy is going to be looking very strong in comparison as well, without even needing to invest into those deer, instead of relying solely on the yatai, which will continue to endlessly provide food for him, as long as the food outcroppings are, of course, there and not used up. Question is, what's going to be the follow-up for loueMT after this Koka Township is going to finish? The Koka Township, by now, just a notorious landmark. The shinobi, able to be spawned in any stealth forest on the map, and near any building of your own, wherever it is on the map. They make any fight a horrible decision to be taken by the opposing player. The debuff, the extra damage, the slow, is just so potent. And it only gets stronger in age, and the shinobi numbers only increase with age as well. It's one of the reasons this civilization is often a permaban now for most players. But Puppypaw feeling confident in the matchup here.
Now, Puppypaw, he's playing a civ that has been historically very powerful and still takes up a few bans here if we look at tournament statistics. But Puppypaw, playing on the China, he's already going for a horseman, which makes a lot of sense. You want to shut down those yatai. And this is something we want to ask ourselves. How much do I allow my opponent to capitalize on those yatai before he's going to need to put them back in his base where they belong and not going to be getting him all the bonuses that he so dearly desires? Now, we see a barracks being built as well, which means that I expect to see a lot more feudal shenanigans. This is not a surprise, because we have been seeing China play a lot more feudal games with those pro scouts, and especially when you're up against Sengoku, you don't want to let this go to castle, because those shinobis, they get even worse as time goes on. You may have your bonuses, but shinobis, they get exponentially better.
That they do. And it looks like Puppypaw is going to lean into the new wave China build here that we've been seeing for a couple of months now. It's going to be the delayed Pro Scouts. Heavy unit investment first, which China does so well with the supervision, and all of his gold will be gained passively. The Yatai are already under threat, both of them. All that you can see the bar filling up at the top, both very close to spawning that food trader, which once it reaches the Matsuri will give 5% gather rate per food trader that returns. Looks like the villager, a bit slow on the reaction, is going to get pinched here despite the shinobi here from Louis. The horseman will be slowed down, but there's no answer in the form of direct military from loueMT yet. We did see that stable go up. The first Yari cavalry is now in queue, and the stable as well here from Louis.
Now, those shinobis, they can be a little bit annoying, right? They can ensure that all your units are running a little bit slower, especially when you're TC diving, and take a few shots from that TC itself. The thing is now, he did get a villager, and this already feels pretty good for Puppypaw. Because now, Puppypaw going into his first scouts, he is not going to have any problems picking this up. The thing is, he might even get to a point where he's going to comfortably be able to deny the food from Louis. Now, with this, we do see the Yatais, both of them being pushed back very far to the base. And this is what we want to see. The problem is, the longer this game goes, those Yatai are going to be inspiring those villagers around. And you need to ensure that you do the right amount of damage here. We do see a tower as well for Louis on the goal, which just means he's not able to go too greedy into this. Puppypaw, he needs to be careful though, because these horses doing a little bit of countermeasure now, this is a pretty big loss, and already he's just sacrificing a handful of units, and that's very, very tough to try and get this back. And it just looks like now all of a sudden Louis says, hey, I'm going to be producing units, you're not going to get this for free, so let's keep fighting.
Yes, this is the classic weak point here for China, being well exploited by Louis. Puppypaw maybe overextending a little bit there, all because of the investment into Pro Scouts die. This is now the skirmish comes in. The shinobi are called in the stealth forest, and Puppypaw's going to lose more military here. He cannot fight with the presence of the shinobi. It's too potent, especially with the Yari cavalry here. Some of the best light cavalry in the entire game. +2 damage up against other cavalry as well as made the additional movement speed, making them one of the fastest units in the game. Certainly the earliest fastest unit in the game. They can get up to 2 tiles of movement speed per second, the soft cap in AoE4. When they do get the upgrade from the Daimyo state, that's still some little ways out now. But the significant slowdown is here for Puppypaw. This is a sacrifice you have to make. Or this Pro Scout that is now investing into 6 scouts already on the field. Now the day is going to come in very hot here for him here. It will give him an exponentially boosted food income. Already it's being manifested 700 compared to Louis' 600. So the Yatai are now again moving into position. And Louis is going to continuously invest, so will Puppypaw. But when it comes to infantry fights here in the feudal age, I think, well, Sengoku, even with cavalry, just have such an advantage in military in the feudal age, just way better than China's army. Zuganu could turn the tide, but they are unavailable without the Barbicans and an additional 600 resources investment that Puppy would have to make to only slow himself down further.
I'm laughing at how the sound is developing through all of this. Twitch chat, they are telling us exactly which direction everyone is going. If they can hear us right now, Twitch chat, I hope you're enjoying the horse races from the Sengoku. That's a little bit of a bonus that they will be soon enjoying when that comes on in. And those horses are going to be even harder to catch, as Puppypaw has not invested in his own four-legged steeds just yet. So he knows that investing in horses might end up being a little bit futile, with the horses themselves getting that bit of a bonus. Now the mobility here from Louis, he is going to need to do a little bit of damage with this. Cannot take a face-to-face fight. So the closer this army gets to his base, the worse it is for him. He needs to ensure that these guys are chasing him around everywhere.
The Yumi priority is there now for loueMT, and I'm curious to see if we have a Daimyo estate just yet, but looking at the stone count, I don't think that is the case for this point in time. Very good choices available to Louis on the Sengoku. He could go for the Oda clan to boost his archers. That contains an upgrade which will give an additional +1 damage to Yumi. Of course, any daimyo in presence of the army will boost, giving additional health to the respective unit that the daimyo state belongs to, as well as an overall attack speed bonus of, I think it is 10 or 15% in the feudal age here. That would apply to all units as well, near the aura of the daimyo. Some farms being added in here for Louis already, and Puppypaw is going to be a quick turnaround time. The Imperial Palace is on the way now. The day income is severe. 800 now for Puppypaw to Louis 600. Not that big of a difference at this point in time. But of course, the Yatai are there providing maximal value to Louis, as well as the Matsuri Gatherate, making the food income quite competitive, even with one of the very best in the game, China. Alice is going to finish, and with the secondary stable dropped, it's looking to be Lancers on the menu.
No, guys, Lancers, they might sound great, right? Like, I'm sitting here thinking, oh, a nice little group of Lancers, that's going to go down swimmingly. What is it? Is it when you're up against a man whose horses just run that much faster than yours? And Louis, looking at Castle Age himself, he's noticing, okay, the pressure has gone down significantly. What does this mean for me? This means Castle Age, which means I go Castle Age. Now, both of these guys are going to be kind of ready for this. And Puppypaw, when I say kind of, he's the one moving out on the map because he knows that Louis did not invest in the right units to shut those Lancers down just yet. And with Louis being this far out on the map as well, trying to get that bit of food, he's not clicking age up just, or until now he didn't click up age up, but now these villagers are going to need to pull back, and the problem is all of his resources are quite a bit exposed here, Myriad. I think the man is in a little bit of danger.
Yes, the China timing, as oppressive as it always has been here. Puppypaw making it look really scary for Louis. The front gold being a thorn in Louis' side at this point in time as he's cut off completely. And the age up is barely even halfway through. Very nice reinforcement cut off here from Louis though. The Shinobi are gonna catch 3 Lancers on the pursuit there, and they will take heavy damage. Meanwhile, Puppypaw, distracted with dealing with that cutoff, now dives the TC and loses plenty of archers in turn before the veterans even comes in. Great defensive effort here by Louis, stopping Puppypaw's tempo completely in its tracks as the Sake Brewery is about to finish. 5 plots of gold infinitely for the rest of the game for him. Most likely underneath that Matsuri, and gold should be potentially back on the menu here for Louis, at least from the Sake Brewery, but the front gold is still a bit under contention, we can see. The pro scouts Whammon, 11 Lancers on the field, more than double the food income. Puppypaw's China is looking disgusting right now.
Now, he might be looking disgusting in your eyes. We have to keep in mind, he's just lost a handful of archers to that TC. He sacrificed a lot of his own units, and this gave Louis a bit of that breathing room. Now going for... I say this, I'm busy talking and yapping, and all of a sudden the units are out of position. The Lancers are getting right on top of them, destroying whatever they can. They're trying to attack, move, fire backwards, but these horses can do a significant amount of damage, and that they will do. We see the Lancers just destroying everything in their path. They will ultimately probably a lot of losses here, but luckily a few of them will go out. The Shinobi slowing them down, but yet another attack because Puppypaw is no mere pup. He is a hound, an absolute dog on any outside resources, taking down anyone who dares touch it. These Lancers just killing everything in front of them. The multiple attack groups, they were just a little bit too much for our Sengoku player here.
Puppypaw has got that dog in him in this game. As the Lancers from every single side of Louis' base catching the villagers, 10 die within seconds, and at the same time the gold directly contested by a secondary raid of Lancers, losing even more. Within 1 minute, Louis is down 23 villagers, half his economy. There's virtually nothing left for him in this game, as Puppypaw looking to show again why China is still to be feared, even against the new whiz kids on the block in the form of Sengoku. Louis is angling for a miracle right now.
And the thing is, Louis had to know this. Louis, one of our best Chinese players out there, was playing against his own home civilization. He had to know what these people can be cooking, and what they were cooking was a lot of raiding and a lot of destruction. The thing is, he's now moved out towards the eastern corner for a little bit of gold, but the armies facing off here is not going to go too well for him. The horses and everything else pulling back, the shinobis firing out, and to be fair, these shinobis could save his butt quite a bit here as the army is forced backwards, and it gives him a bit of time. But what do you see up there, ladies and gentlemen? I see a red dot, and that red dot is going straight for more villagers up top. And while this fight is happening, another set of lancers is going to be landing in the base of Louis.
There's a tiny little lull here in Puppypaw's military production as he reasserts control of food. We did see him moving out onto those boards. That is why there has been no significant dive yet. But as I say that, the lancers, of course, that you mentioned, Marika, were in position there to hit the wood line, but they were spotted by Louis. No further villagers have went down for a little while now. Louis clearly doing his utmost here in the defense, drawing the shinobi at this time as well. But the economy is just absolutely anemic from Louis. The income is looking, oh god, it tells a very horrifying tale. Almost food alone, Puppypaw is ahead in nearly every resource here for Louis. And now, he's trying to pick him apart bit by bit, drawing the forces to the north. More idle time on this woodline. These farms are just completely useless, as there's no villagers to even work them safely at this point in time. Just to add insult to injury, the Yatai food trader is going to get caught now, which will reveal the location of the Yatai, and that in turn will show the villagers on the berries as well here. And Louis knows there is nothing left for him in this set. GG is cold, and the paw is the law here in the first set as Puppypaw takes it 3-1.
And now, guys, we have had all the issues. And that's okay, because we're back and the issues are resolved. We have sound, we have casters, and we have great gameplay in front of us. So this set was an absolute banger already. I absolutely love the fact that Puppypaw is showing us exactly how to shut down the civilizations that people have been struggling to play against. And the set that follows this one is something quite big. Wham versus Marine Lord. I guess with Marine Lord also advancing his group in the second position, this spells an opportunity for Wham. This gives Wham that chance to take down the Lord after this. And after his brother looked so commanding against Louis, I feel like Wham might be a little bit of a beast to reckon with himself.
It's absolutely true. We have seen Wham have some incredibly close sets against the Marine Lord, who, well, not many people can disagree at this point, is just a goat. Let's be completely honest. The man is looking dominant for years now, barely having just a few blips in a couple finals here and there along the way. One quarterfinals against Vortex as well, somewhat recently, a few months back. But besides that, he's been looking absolutely unstoppable, except against some players. Wham being one of them, taking him to a grueling 5-set series on LAN at the Masters of Steel. I remember back in Copenhagen, that was a crazy set. Jesus Christ! Hopefully, he can do it here again today.
Getting all that passion out of Murian right here, right now. So guys, let's take a quick look at that bracket and we can understand exactly what's in store for us later today. So Puppypaw, first man advancing all the way through to the upper bracket semifinals. But now Wham and Marine Lord will be battling it out to see if we will have a battle of the brothers or Puppypaw versus Marine Lord to follow. After that, we do have Anatan and Lucifron going to be taking the stage, and Anatan looking like an absolute beast recently. I'm so excited to see what Anatan can pull out against an absolute adaptable genius like Lucifron.